What's up, guys? So today we got a brand new video for you. We also got a brand new giveaway to talk about, and this month we're going to be giving away a multi-purpose digital meter. Now this thing does a number of different things for you. I have one. I absolutely love this device, and it makes mixing salt water and a number of other things very, very easy. So if you want to be in the running for this giveaway, all you need to do is be a subscriber, hit the like button on this video, and leave a comment down below, and you may win yourself a Seaside Aquatics salinity meter. All right, folks, so the topic of today's video is the top 5 most stunning LPS corals, and right here we have some absolute beauties when it comes to LPS corals. Now, if you're unfamiliar with the term LPS, ultimately what it stands for is large polyp stony. So it has a skeleton base and usually some type of large polyp that is connected to the skeleton. Now, as far as care level goes, in most cases, they are, beginner friendly, but there are some intermediate LPS corals out there. So it's one that you want to make sure that you do some research on, just like anything in this hobby. Get all the facts before you go out and purchase one and understand the care requirements for this coral. And that's going to lead to you having a much more successful time keeping a LPS coral. And for those of you out there that are softy and SPS lovers, don't worry, because we're going to be putting together some videos for them as well. Originally, when I was thinking about this topic, I was just going to do one top 10 video, but decided to dive down a little bit deeper into each one of these different types of corals and give you a little bit more in-depth look at some of the most stunning corals out of these groups. So without further ado, let's jump into the top 5 most stunning LPS corals. Kicking things off with number 5 on the top 5 most stunning LPS corals is the worldwide corals Inferno Ganyapora. Now, anytime that you are talking about Ganyapora, it's very important to mention that this isn't one of the most easy to keep LPS corals that are out there, and in many cases could be downright difficult. But as time has gone on, this coral has been aquacultured more and more, and the success rate has definitely increased with keeping Ganyapora in a reef tank. Now, this is a coral that has been fragged many times by Worldwide Corals, and I first stumbled across it on a live sale on the Reef to Reef forum, where Worldwide Corals was actually selling one of these guys for $160, which is about $30 off their typical retail price. I'm sure there's somebody out there that's saying, well, that's not really that good of a deal. I'll just go to their eBay sale and wait for one of these to pop up. What I have experienced, because I have participated in some of these live sales, is the size of the frag that you get through the website and through these live sales is a lot bigger than what you'll actually get on an eBay sale. So even though that you are spending a lot less money on those eBay sales, ultimately you are paying for what you're getting. And a lot of these live sales and website sales are larger frags. And with the eBay sale, you're getting a little bit smaller of a frag. So it's up to you whether you're going to be patient enough to be able to hold off and let that little eBay frag grow, or if you want something a little bit bigger to fill out that tank, jump on one of these live sales or the website. But it doesn't matter how you frag it. The Worldwide Corals Inferno Ganyapora is one of the most stunning LPS corals out there, and I would definitely love to have a frag of this in my own reef tank at home. Coming in at number 4 on the top 5 most stunning LPS corals is the Tidal Gardens Blue Raven Blasto. Now, we'll get into the Blasto Musa in a little bit more detail here in a second, but one thing I want to touch on is Tidal Gardens. They are a fellow YouTuber. They got a great channel on here, and there's a ton of helpful information, especially if you're just starting out in the hobby. Make sure you check out Tidal Gardens. Great information. I'll put a link in the description to his channel. Be sure to check that out. Now, as far as his Blue Raven Blasto, it is a absolute stunner. The coloration on this guy is probably some of the most vibrant that I've ever seen in a Blasto. Now, as far as the care requirements go for this guy, it is a relatively easy to keep coral. Doesn't prefer high lighting. It actually prefers a little bit of dim lighting, which is going to increase the growth rate. It's going to increase the polyp extensions, also going to increase the coloration of the coral itself. An interesting fact about Blastomussa is if it becomes stressed in its location and it doesn't really like what it's getting as far as water flow or even lighting, it will do a thing called polyp bailout, where it'll actually disconnect the polyp from the skeleton, and the polyp will go to a different location. As long as that location is a little bit better suited for that coral, the coral will actually reestablish itself and grow another skeleton. Now, as far as price point goes on this coral, it's a little on the high end. You're looking to pay $120 per frag, but all that aside, it is a very beautiful coral, and it's worth checking out over at Tidal Gardens if you're interested in picking one up. Check it out, the Blue Raven Blasto. Coming in at number 3 on our top 5 most stunning LPS corals is the Rainbow Acan. Now, as far as trade names go with Acans, I'm not really going to get into one specifically. In most cases, most vendors just kind of refer to them as Rainbow Acans, and they are absolutely some of the most stunning LPS corals that are out there. Now, as far as care requirements go for Acans, they are relatively easy to take care of, but I have had some struggles with them over the years, and in most cases it had everything to do with flow and not so much parameters or lighting. They do prefer to be in the bottom half of the tank, not have too strong of lights over them, and kind of medium flow. And if you feed them every once in a while, that's usually going to give them what they need to be successful in your tank. The one thing I will say about the Rainbow Acans is they are a little bit more expensive. There are other variations out there that are not as colorful and not as stunning as some of these rainbows are. But when you are talking about a Rainbow Acan, that's probably top tier as far as price point goes. In a lot of cases, you can expect to pay anywhere from $20 to $100 per frag in the rainbow variety. Coming in at number 2 on our top 5 most stunning LPS corals, and probably one of the hardest to keep, is the sun coral. Now, the reason that this coral is considered hard to keep is due mostly to the fact that it is non-photosynthetic, so it's going to get all of its nutrients through food. And in most cases in this hobby, anytime that you're dealing with something that is difficult to keep, it usually almost always revolves around food and its feeding requirements, and that's usually what makes it a difficult care level critter. Now, as far as my personal experience with this coral, I've actually been pretty successful with keeping it, and a lot of what I've done with it is I put it in a dark shaded part of the aquarium that typically doesn't get a lot of sunlight, and I do feed my tank. And what I've been feeding my current sun coral that I have is Brightwell Aquatics Zooplanktos. Now, this is a product that I don't typically spot feed with. I just kind of add it to the aquarium, and you'll actually see the coral open up and it will start feeding actively. And it's really interesting to see this guy open up, and it's just absolutely stunning. Typically when I do my feeding is around where the lights start to turn down, and the coral has become accustomed to opening up anyways that time of the lighting cycle. And then once I add this food in there, it's game on. And I think that that has really contributed to the success for me personally keeping sun coral. And one thing that I do want to stress, though, even though that I have found success, make sure you do your research before you go out and buy one of these guys. Make sure that you're going to be up for the feeding requirements. And if you want to take a look at the product that I talked about as far as I think what has contributed to the success for me and keeping sun corals, I'm going to put a link in the description below for that product. Coming in at number 1 on the top 5 most stunning corals is the Scully. Now, the Scully, in my opinion, is one of the easier to keep LPS corals, but they are probably one of the most expensive LPS corals on this list as well. And what really drives the cost of a Scully is due to the fact that it's not a coral that can be aquacultured. It is a wild collected coral, and you can't frag them. I strongly recommend that you do not frag a Scully ever. All you're going to do is just cause it damage. And there's a lot of different grades when it comes to Scullies. You have the UFO, which has a almost circular color pattern. Usually has about 2 different colors, and quite often those colors are green and blue, but there are some different morphs out there as well. One of the more popular colorations as far as Scullies go is the bleeding apple. Quite often these are the green and red ones that are out there, and essentially it looks like a green apple that is bleeding. And my personal favorite is the war painted Scully. A lot of times you have like a teal, a purple, and then it has the same bleeding color effect that you see with the bleeding apples, and they are some of the most stunning Scullies out there. But those guys are great, they look awesome, but they don't hold a candle to the Master Scully. Now, what defines a Master Scully is a Scully that has more than 4 colorations, and quite often it has almost all the same characteristics of every single Scully that we just talked about. It looks like a bleeding apple, looks like a UFO, looks like a war painted Scully, all in one. And a lot of times with the other types that we talked about already, you're going to pay anywhere from $300 to $500 for those corals. Again, they're not aquacultured, they are wild collected. But with a Master Scully, you can expect to pay upwards of $1,000 or more for one. But considering that they are a easy to care for coral, and in most cases are going to do just fine in an aquarium setting, they do like to be fed quite a bit. And a product that I have used in the past and have found some pretty interesting results from is Coral Frenzy. More specifically, the pellets. The powder is good for just broadcast feeding, but when it comes to Scullies, I like to target feed. It is one of the very few corals that I actually will target feed. In most cases, I'm just doing broadcast feeding and I'm done with it. But with Scullies, I like to get in there, make sure that they're getting the food that they need. And with the pellets, it makes it a little bit easier to target feed. And Coral Frenzy, some of the results that I've seen from using this product and feeding those Scullies is more colorations coming out that were not previously there when I got the coral, which was pretty awesome to get a war painted Scully and then start having some more teals and some more blues coming out due simply to just using Coral Frenzy and feeding my corals once a week. All right, guys, that's going to do it for this one. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed it, make sure you hit the thumbs up. And if you want to take a look at any of the vendors or the products that we talked about in today's video, there's going to be links in the description below. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time right here with a brand new video.